I wouldn't consider myself a big reader, but there are just some books that really stick with you. I remember the first time that I opened Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This magical kid trying to save the world from the most evil villain of all, he who shall not be named. I remember waiting for my letter to Hogwarts to arrive, knock on wood. I remember practicing my spells on my sister. And I remember drawing a lightning scar just on my forehead with a Sharpie. But let's fast forward to the present. I remember the first time that I opened a test prep book in high school. I remember it was the PSAT book in 8th grade. Sounds awful. I remember practicing my binomial equations like crazy. I remember reading morose passages about the calls of male hummingbirds. And I also remember drawing on my paper, trying to distract myself from taking that PSAT. Sorry, Dad. But then a question arises. What's the point? What's the point of preparing your entire years, investing time and money into a 4-hour test, an 80-minute test, a couple of problems? And it's all because of the numbers. We try and prepare not only ourselves, but for this test, because we want that 1600 on that SAT. We want that 5 on that AP. We want to get that scholarship from the PSAT. But a problem arises when we confer this much value on something as small as numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We begin to quantify what can't be quantified. And we set ourselves a dangerous precedent for competing not only with ourselves, but our futures. So in this talk, let's open up our prep books and let's simplify to see where this problem began. Let's add to see where it creates this detriment for students. And finally, let's solve this issue of a number-oriented mentality. So first, let's talk about where this problem began. Because at the end of the day, this problem wasn't always around. So let's go back to the 70s, to the time of disco music, where everyone was wearing polyester and bell bottoms topped off with these huge afros. Political scandals were in the air and the times were changing. But I'm going to shift your focus to education. The common notion for all educators out there was that schools don't matter. Let's think that in. Schools don't matter. That's really shocking. Time after time, study after study, it's been shown that factors like school life, they're so much more important than schools. So what happened? We cut down our curriculum. We set the standard low because it doesn't matter. We justified devaluing the importance of our schools. But reports came, newspaper after newspaper. The US was falling behind. Looking at countries like India, China, Korea, Japan, we were falling behind. Test after test, we were considerably behind. It wasn't a small margin. So the US, just like the narcissistic self that it is, we tried to enforce a policy where let's add a standardized test here. Let's add sports. Let's make kids take a 4-hour standardized test. In general, this concoction of factors all led up to one big idea. Let's overshoot here. Let's make the far limits of our students so far away that it becomes so hard to reach. Let's set our bar here. I can't even reach it. Because Scientifically, quantifiably, the numbers will show it. And what students are facing is the detriments that are created by it. So now I want to shift on how our current education system just highlights this number-oriented mentality. I make the claim that success, or this academic success as we've considered it before, isn't a want, it's become a need. If it was a want, we wouldn't stay up hours on end, surviving on 3 cups of coffee to finish a history assignment that should have been done 2 weeks ago. We shouldn't be studying for a semester final the day before it was due. We shouldn't be crying over a bad grade. And yet, at the same time, what it is doing for students is that we can't focus on our present. The reason why we focus on getting that 20-point assignment done, or we get that 100-point semester final out of the way, is because it'll help our future. It'll help us in the real world. And I think it especially highlights it in the fact that when I'm in high school, I want to get good grades so that I can get to a good college. And when I'm at a good college, I want the best internship. And when I'm at that best internship, I want the best job out there. But then when I get the best job, what do I have? It's this lack of ability to just look at the present as we are now. And schools are creating this environment where we define success, the success of our future, quantifiably. But then ask yourselves, like I asked myself, what is this success? And simply put, it can't be defined. And schools nonstop try to define the success for us. It's getting that 89.5% on a test that's considered a success. It's getting that 5 on that AP test that it's considered a success. It's getting a 1600 on your SAT that's considered a success. But then look at what kids are trying to do to achieve these success. The Adderall effect. Thousands and thousands of kids, just like you guys, are taking a class 2 drug, synonymous to things like heroin and morphine, just so they don't have to sleep. Just so that they can pull an all-nighter and focus on getting that history assignment done. Just so they can get that 89.5%. It's all about the numbers. But then, even if you don't recognize like where we're getting those numbers from, recognize what happens when kids don't achieve these numbers. The US, as it is right now, the teenage population ages 10 to 15, 1 in 5 students seriously considered suicide as an option. And why? The pressure of an external environment to be this successful individual. We place so much value on success, and not only that, schools teach us to put this much value on success. And when we don't achieve that success, we quit. We're talking about burnout at the ages of 15 and 16. We simply don't care enough to put in that work. And that's extremely detrimental if we're considering our generation the future of America. So then I want to talk about my journey. As I've said before, I have invested thousands of dollars, hours of my time into studying for AP tests, SAT tests, PSAT tests, and ACT tests. And yet, what I fail to consider on a normalized basis is the fact that I base this much value on a number because I'm not happy with where I am in the present. I'm not happy with the fact that right now I'm doing extraordinarily well and I'm an amazing human being. But if I spend this many hours trying to achieve a success that's all the way back there in that auditorium? It's just not going to happen. In kindergarten, we learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in high school, we learn to play one instrument, play 2 sports, take at least 3 advanced classes, get a 4.0 GPA, and get a 5 on your APs. So finally, let's solve these problems. Let's see how we can diverge ourselves from this number-oriented mentality. And in looking at these problems, the first thing I noticed was the fact that I am surrounded by friends and family who care about me. But it's not only who care about me, but a lot of those friends are in the same position. How many people have watched the Titanic? There's this one scene in the Titanic when the boat is falling and the quartet is playing. Yeah. They basically are about to die, and the quartet says, let's keep playing. I can say for a fact that a lot of people who are here and who are in those halls today are in a sinking boat. We can feel that we are drowning really easily. We feel that we don't have a life raft to save us when we get that C on a test. We don't have a life raft when we don't sleep. We don't have a life raft when we feel like we're alone. So find those people, find those friends who care about you and who are in the same position as you. Because I can say for a fact that a duet of individuals falling down, crashing in a boat, is a lot better than by yourself. So find that orchestra that you create. And so let's look at the second point. How can we not just focus on our future? I think one important thing that every one of us, including myself, we need to look at how we define success. Is it our happiness? Is it a grade? Is it a job? Is it a number? Or is it ourselves? Can we ever be content with who we are in the present? Can we stop doing extracurriculars to put them on resumes? So just to tie it back a little, I'm going to say my schedule for this week, just so that I can give an example of how much that I define success. I take piano on Tuesdays, I take violin lessons on Monday, I go to speech and debate practice Tuesdays and Thursdays. During mock trial practice, I would go almost every day of the week preparing. I take countless gifted opportunities, and moreover, I take all honors and AP tests. As of right now, after giving a TEDx talk, I have to go to French class, AP World, and honors FST, pre-calc. It's insane. Just me saying it feels so overwhelming. And why? Because I defined my success as numbers. I defined my success as getting an 89.5. But on our journey as students, what we fail to recognize is the success of our happiness. So do amazing things, not because you want to add another number to your resume, because you want to do it for yourself. And finally, the last recommendation I have. It can be summed up in 3 words. Take a break. We as students feel like we need to jog. We need to sprint our way down a marathon just to achieve success. We need to cross that finish line in 2 minutes. But take a break. Yesterday, I took a long nap after watching a Netflix show. It was probably one of the most gratifying feelings in the world, just to take a break. Just to say that you are overworking yourself. You're spreading yourself out so thin, the ice is about to crack. So take a nap. Don't rely on coffee and your high expectations. So teachers, fellow students, peers, Let's stop counting numbers, and let's start reading Harry Potter. Thank you.